Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to my very first Q&A video. About a couple weeks ago I put up something on my story when I announced that I'd be doing my rig rundown for anybody that has questions about my guitar rigs. So I got a lot of responses and I must say I was very overwhelmed. Thank you to all who sent in, I appreciate it. So I handpicked some of the most popular topics, some of them stood out to me, so let's wait no more, let's get into this. Our very first question is from Diego from Mexico, and his question is, how do you program analog pedals into your rig? Alrighty, so the pedals that I have in my rig are the Whammy pedal and the Kaoss Pad, and then obviously I have the Phase 90 and the Fuzz Factory, so those are connected to the Patchmate Loop 8. And that is a MIDI controlled looper, so that sends, or I should say receives signal from the Mastermind GT. On the Mastermind I have buttons that are labeled with each pedal, and each button has assigned multiple actions. So for the Whammy pedal or the Kaoss Pad, what I'm able to do is all the buttons have two actions. The first one is that when I hit the button, it calls up the channel for the looper so that it runs into the rest of the signal chain for the guitar. And then the second action is that it calls up the preset that I want to use for either device. And then when I'm done using either one, I just hit the button and it bypasses that device and it's not going through the signal chain anymore. Then for as far as the other two pedals, the Phase and the Fuzz, they just have one action. Since they're not MIDI devices, all I have to do is just hit a button and it'll open the channel on the looper. And it's as simple as that. The fact that you can see the name of, an analog pedal on another digital controller, I think that's a really cool thing. I remember the first time I ever saw a picture of somebody using this rig and seeing just a bunch of names of pedals on that device. I thought that was really freaking cool, so it's very awesome to be able to do that. Alrighty, so our next question is from Ryan from New York, and he wants to know, how do you have the Mastermind control the rest of the rig? Okay, great question. So, of course, the Mastermind GT is the alpha and omega of my entire guitar rig. So, on the Mastermind we have 3 rows of buttons, and there are 6 buttons in each row. So, for the top row, the green buttons are the actual preset names on Axe-Fx. Then the second row, I have different colors of buttons for the Whammy pedal, and then the Phase and the Kaoss Pad. And then if you hit page up, you're going to see more buttons with the same color purple for the Kaoss Pad. Those are other presets that I like to use. And then I have a lavender blue for the Fuzz Factory. So when we hit page up and go back to the main page there, so those buttons that are for any of the devices that are run with a looper, that's obviously what that connects to. But then the bottom row is those blue buttons, those are for the Axe-Fx scenes. Our next question is from, and forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong, my friend Josep from Peru. He wants to know what the price of the rig was. Oh. Well, I'll put it to you this way. It was the cost of many, many US dollars over a long period of time. Hey, like any musician that puts together a good quality rig, it didn't all come together overnight, but I'm very lucky to be the owner of many of the stuff in this rig, and like any other passionate musician, I like to get as much as I absolutely can out of this rig. Alright, next question, Jeff from Ontario. His question is, how long have I been using Axe-Fx, and has it really changed my sound overall? Alright, great questions here, so I've been using Axe-Fx for about 2.5 years now. Before that, the 4 pedals that I have in my rack system, the Whammy, Kaoss, Fuzz, and Phase, those were on my old pedal board. I used to have them right at my feet along with my main effects processor, which was a Line 6 HD500X. And then I would just run everything to my Orange Crush Pro amp. It sounded pretty decent. I didn't, at the time I was a little younger, I didn't really know how to dial in stuff correctly, so not everything sounded very balanced. Some of the pedals would come in a little too strong. But once I got Axe Effects and I started really experimenting with a lot more things and kind of just, came through as a sound designer as I would, start working in more studios with my band, I learned a lot about, dialing effects and building some amp tones and how to get some good quality stuff. So over the course of time, it was a matter of learning how to use Axe Effects and becoming a good producer and sound designer. So yeah, to directly answer your question, it's made a tremendous impact on my sound. Alright, next question is Marius from Norway. And Marius wants to know, how do you set up your Kaoss Pad so it doesn't affect your other effects that much? Okay, so before I even answer this question, just so you guys know, I have an entire 5 to 10 minute video on this exact question. It is explained in there, but just to kind of vaguely touch on it here. So what I do is, in order to dial in the best sound settings I can for my Kaoss Pad, I crank up the effects depth knob all the way up to 100%, and then in order to balance out my guitar signal and my and signal coming from the Kaoss Pad, what I do is I start by putting the input volume knob down to 0, and I'll start playing my guitar. And then I'll keep turning it up, and as I'm playing my guitar, I'll play some loud power chords, but then I'll start hitting the touchpad on the loudest Kaoss Pad preset, which will be 75 or 79. Those usually let out the most audio signal. So anyway, I'll keep playing my guitar until the volume of it pretty much matches the same signal coming from the Kaoss Pad. That way I know that they're never going to overlap each other. So next question is from, and again, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name, Aka from Turkey wants to know, what is my favorite reverb pedal? Alright, so here's an interesting thing you should actually know about me as a guitar player. I've never really been a stopbox guy. I've always been about the multi-effects processors. The only stomps I really own are the ones that you see in my rack system, but when I was 13 or 14 and I started playing guitar, and the only effect I ever had at that point was this Boss distortion pedal, is the PowerStack ST2. And it actually sounded really cool. It was some kind of metal sounding distortion. This is obviously way before I really started getting into effects, but by the time I was 15, the next thing I ever got was a Line 6 FloorPod Plus. That was the very first multi-effects system I had, until years later I got the Line 6, and then until what you see now, this with Axe Effects. So I never really had a favorite reverb pedal, but my favorite reverbs that I like to run in Axe Effects, depending on what kind of guitar part I'm doing. If I'm doing an ambient line of guitar with arpeggios or some bar chords to let ring, I like to use a spring reverb. Those sound really cool. Otherwise, if I'm just doing a general guitar line, a riff, or a solo, I like to use a plate reverb. They give it a nice sort of dungeon feel in a way. Otherwise, if I had to give you one more cool reverb I like, so Native Instruments has their own effects program called Guitar Rig. And I was never really a super big fan of it, because it's not that it sounds bad or anything, it's just kind of inconvenient for the way I run my effects. But they have a really cool reverb called the Ice Verb. And like what I like to do with sorry, so many reverbs. what I like to do with Deep Space and Axe Effects, I like to create that sort of synth pad feel with some rainy guitar lines. Ice Verb will do that too, but it's very simple. If you just strum a straight bar chord or an open chord, it'll immediately just give you this really cool pad effect. So if you ever listen to Change in the House of Flies by Deftones, If you listen to like any point of the song where you hear those synths in the background, that's actually what the iceverb sounds like. And I think that's what drew me to it so quickly. So yeah, if you ever feel like throwing down some money on Guitar Rig by Native Instruments, go right for the iceverb. Very cool thing. Alright, so I have one more question here. This is from Andy from the UK. He said, so I see there's no power amp in your rack system. Do you go straight to a head? A great question. So, right, I don't have any power amps in my rack system. In my opinion, I don't like what it does to your tone. So, if you're someone like me that uses your amp and cab sims and Axe effects, it's going to add a lot of color to your tone if you use a power amp and then sending to a cab. So I would rather just forego using power amps and just send straight to the front of house mixer. Then at that point, it's really up to your preference. And, I say this to a lot of people, and this is something I've learned working with a lot of producers. There is absolutely no set way to run any kind of guitar rig or way to mix a song, whatever it is. Everything we do in music or people in general, it's an art. So, before you go reading online about, someone will claim that, this is how you should be running your guitar rig, and then maybe you'll see like another 5 people on Facebook bashing that person in a post. Well, that's not really what I think you should be doing. Instead of going to bash someone for claiming about, why they're running something a certain way that might seem wrong to you, what you really should be, and what I recommend you doing, is ask, why are they doing that? What purpose is that serving, and what are they accomplishing by, using a power amp with Axe effects and all their sims? It all depends on what you're trying to accomplish in the end. So, the sky's the limit. There are tons and tons of possibilities we can do with our guitar rigs. Otherwise, that concludes this Q&A. Thank you all again for sending in your questions. Like, comment, subscribe, and you can follow any of my social media. I've left a link tree in the description of this video. Keep up with everything I'm working on, and I'll see you out there. Stay safe. Cheers.